The following story is a translated and adapted conversation, recounting supernatural experiences from around the world. This content is intended for entertainment purposes only. Listen with an open mind and enjoy the thrill of the unknown. The content in this video is purely for entertainment. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are easily frightened, be prepared some stories might just send chills down your spine. If you're ready, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and immerse yourself in the world of the unexplained.
In 2016, Aleppo was a city in agony. Its ancient streets reduced to rubble by the Syrian civil war's relentless violence. Airstrikes, sieges, and ground battles between regime forces, rebels, and foreign powers had turned the city into a graveyard, its people trapped in a cycle of death and despair. Into this inferno stepped Layla Hassan, a 29-year-old Syrian journalist working for Reuters. Born and raised in Aleppo, Layla had once wandered its bustling souk and historic citadel. But now she returned to a city unrecognizable, driven by a need to document its destruction and give voice to its survivors. Layla's mission wasn't just professional duty. In 2012, her older brother, Rami, had died in a regime airstrike, his body lost in the rubble of their family's apartment. The loss shattered Layla, leaving a void filled with grief and guilt for being abroad, studying in London when he died. Her journalism became a way to honor Rami, to expose the war's toll on civilians, and ensure Aleppo's pain wasn't forgotten. Armed with a notebook, a digital recorder, and a Canon 5D camera, Layla ventured into the city, ignoring warnings that Aleppo was a city of ghosts. The journey to Aleppo was a descent into chaos. Layla crossed from Turkey via a smuggler's route, navigating checkpoints manned by wary rebels. The air was thick with dust and the acrid stench of burning rubber, the horizon lit by the flash of bombs. She joined a small team, a Reuters photographer named Khaled, a grizzled Aleppan with a limp from a past shrapnel wound, a local fixer named Nur, a young woman whose sharp wit hid her fear, and a driver named Bassem, a former teacher turned survivalist. Their mission was to spend 5 days in Aleppo, documenting the sieges, impact-bombed hospitals, starving families, and the resilience of those who remained. Layla's goal was to capture the human cost of the war, focusing on civilian stories for Reuters' global audience. The team set up in a safe house in the Salaheddin district, a crumbling apartment with boarded windows and a flickering generator. The air was heavy with the smell of mold and fear, the walls scarred by bullet holes. That first night, Layla couldn't sleep. The city wailed sirens, screams, the roar of jets. She sat by a cracked window, reviewing her plan: visit shelters, interview survivors, and photograph the ruins. Aleppo's destruction felt personal, a betrayal of her childhood, and Rami's absence was a constant ache. "This is for you," she whispered, clutching her recorder, but a quiet dread settled in her chest. The first 2 days were a grim parade of suffering. Layla and her team navigated Aleppo's shattered streets, their van weaving through rubble and sniper alleys. They visited a makeshift clinic, its floors slick with blood, where doctors worked without anesthesia. Layla interviewed a mother who'd lost her children in a barrel bomb attack, her voice breaking as she spoke. Each story felt like a knife, cutting into Layla's resolve, stirring guilt for her years abroad while Aleppo burned. Khaled's camera clicked, his photos stark and unflinching, while Nur translated, her hands trembling. Bassem drove in silence, his eyes scanning for drones. On the second day, Nur led them to a survivor, an elderly man named Abu Omar, who'd lived through the siege. He spoke of ghosts in the rubble, victims who appeared to the living, their faces half gone, their voices accusing. "They're in the hospitals, the schools," he said, his voice low. They want to be remembered. He warned Layla to avoid the ruins at night, his eyes dark with fear. The dead are angry. They see you. Layla noted the story, dismissing it as trauma's myth. But Abu Omar's words lingered, echoing her own grief for Rami. That afternoon, the team photographed a collapsed hospital in the Bustan al-Qaza district, its walls reduced to jagged concrete and twisted rebar. The air was heavy, the smell of blood lingering despite the wind. Layla's camera malfunctioned, the viewfinder showing faces pale, distorted, with missing jaws or eyes that vanished when she looked up. She shook it off, blaming the dust. But the unease grew. Khaled noticed. His face, pulling. "This place is wrong," he muttered, limping away. Nur crossed herself, a habit from her Christian upbringing, while Bassem stayed in the van, refusing to enter. Layla felt the hospital's weight, its silence alive, as if the rubble was watching. The hospital was a jagged graveyard, its halls choked with debris syringes, bandages, a child's shoe stained red. Layla moved cautiously, her flashlight cutting through the gloom, her camera clicking as she captured the devastation. Overturned gurneys, shattered monitors, a wall scrawled with Arabic prayers. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant thud of bombs and the team's muffled footsteps. The air was dusty, choking, with a metallic temps that clung to her throat. The walls seemed to pulse, the shadows sharper, as if hiding something. Layla's recorder was running, capturing the quiet, but it picked up faint whispers in Arabic, unintelligible but urgent, though the hall was empty. Her skin prickled, a sense of being watched pressing against her. She thought of Abu Omar's warning of the ghosts, and felt a chill, her heart quickening. Khaled, limping behind, swore he heard footsteps, but his flashlight revealed nothing. Nur clutched her scarf, muttering prayers, while Bassem radioed from the van, urging them to hurry. The hospital felt alive, its darkness a living thing, its rubble hiding secrets. Layla photographed a collapsed ward, but her camera's display showed smudges vague, human-like shapes that vanished when she looked up. She tried to rationalize it a glitch, a trick of the light, but the whispers returned, now a soft sob coming from the debris. The air grew heavier, the smell of blood sharper, as if the hospital was bleeding. Layla's flashlight flickered, its beam weakening, and the shadows seemed to move, forming shapes in the corners. She felt Rami's absence keenly, a pang of guilt for not being there when he died, and the hospital's silence seemed to mock her. At dusk, the team decided to stay longer, driven by Layla's need for a defining image. The hospital darkened, its ruins swallowing the fading light. Layla moved to a lower level, a surgical ward reduced to rubble, her flashlight trembling. The sob returned, clearer, a woman's voice, raw and anguished, coming from a pile of debris. Layla's pulse raced, her recorder running, capturing the sound. But when she checked it, the tape was distorted, the sob layered with screams. She raised her camera, snapping photos, but the sob became a wail, a piercing cry that echoed through the ward, shaking the rubble. Layla's flashlight flickered, the air plunging to freezing, her breath fogging. She reviewed her camera's shots, and her stomach twisted. In one photo, a figure stood in the debris, a woman, her face half missing, one eye staring blankly, the other a gaping wound. The woman's form was faint, fraying like smoke, but her presence was unmistakable, a weight that chilled Layla's blood. Layla called Khaled, who paled, seeing nothing in the photo. "Let's go," he urged, his voice shaking, his limp worsening as he backed away. Nur froze, her prayers halting, her eyes wide with terror. Basem's radio crackled, his voice frantic. Get out now." The wail came again, louder, a chorus of voices, men, women, children speaking in Arabic. "You left us." The hospital's walls seemed to close in, the shadows sharper, forming shapes. Layla thought of Rami, of the bombing that took him, and felt a surge of guilt, a fear that she'd abandoned her city. Layla pressed deeper, driven by a mix of fear and compulsion, her flashlight trembling. The ward was a maze of rubble, its air icy, almost solid. Her teeth chattered, her fingers numb. The wail grew louder, a cacophony of voices, doctors, patients, children accusing her. "You left us to die." The rubble shifted, as if stirred by unseen hands, revealing more figures, children with crushed limbs, doctors with bloodied coats, all maimed, their eyes locked on Layla. Their faces flickered like a dying light, their movements jerky as if pulled by strings. The central figure, the woman from the photo, glided forward. Her half-face a grotesque mask, her one eye a pit of despair. The wail came from her, a sound that wasn't just grief but rage, a demand for remembrance that pierced Layla's soul. Layla's legs buckled and she fell, her camera slipping from her grip. The woman's eye bored into her, and Layla felt a jolt, as if her soul was being peeled open, her guilt for leaving Aleppo, her failure to save Rami, her own survival while her city burned. The wail became a screech, a deafening storm of voices, screaming in Arabic, "Why did you leave?" The hospital darkened, the rubble curling round Layla, its edges sharp like claws. Her flashlight died, plunging her into near darkness, the figure's forms the only light, a sickly glow that burned her eyes. More figures emerged, faint, flickering shapes in the corners, their faces blurred, their hands reaching. The visions intensified, bombings, bodies piled in the streets, Rami's face among the dead, his voice accusing, "You weren't here." Layla's scream caught in her throat, her body paralyzed by a terror she'd never known, not in Damascus, not in Homs, not anywhere. The figures closed in, their hands cold and skeletal, grazing her neck, pulling her toward the rubble. The ground trembled, as if opening to swallow her, and Layla felt the woman's fingers tighten, icy and sharp, dragging her down. Nur's scream broke the spell, her voice raw, "Layla, run!" Khaled grabbed her arm, his face ashen, his limp forgotten in panic. Bassam's horn blared from the van, a desperate beacon. Layla scrambled to her feet, grabbing her camera, and bolted, the wail chasing her through the hospital. The rubble lunged, its debris snagging at her clothes, as if the hospital was alive. They burst through the entrance, collapsing in the street, the wail fading but the silence worse heavy, alive, watching. Dawn broke over Aleppo, pale and grey, the city's ruins shrouded in smoke. The team sat in the safe house, their hands shaking, their reactions varied. Khaled was silent, his eyes vacant, clutching his camera like a shield, muttering about quitting photography. Nur wept softly, her prayers resuming, her faith shaken by the figure's rage. Bassam chain-smoked, his usual stoicism cracked, refusing to speak of the hospital. Layla checked her camera, but the photos were corrupted streaks of grey, shadowy faces in every frame. And one clear image, the woman, her half-face, staring, her one eye glowing, surrounded by faint, glowing orbs. She deleted it, her hands trembling, but the image was seared into her mind, a wound that wouldn't heal. As they drove away, the hospital loomed in the rearview mirror, its rubble a dark scar against the dawn. Layla heard the wail one last time, faint but clear, coming from behind. She didn't look back, afraid of what she'd see. In Turkey, a smuggler's van evassed them to Gaziantep, the team silent, their faces a blur. Nur, dropping Layla at the airport, noticed her pallor. "You saw them," she said, not a question. Layla nodded, unable to speak. "They don't leave," Nur murmured, echoing Abu Omar's warning. Back in London, Layla tried to move on. She filed a brief report with Reuters, describing Aleppo's ruins, but omitting the figures. The words felt empty, inadequate against the horror she'd seen. The hospital clung to her, a shadow that darkened her days. She couldn't sleep without hearing the wail, couldn't hold her camera without feeling those cold fingers. Her dreams were haunted by the woman, by the faces, by Raymai's face, accusing her of betrayal. Layla stopped taking war assignments, her passion for journalism dimmed by the weight of Aleppo. The camera from the hospital sat in a locked box, its lens covered, as if to keep something trapped. Sometimes, at night, she heard sobs roar, anguished, coming from her apartment's corners. She never looked, afraid of what she'd see, but the woman's half-face lingered in her mind, a stain that wouldn't fade. A year later, a colleague found a single print from Layla's Aleppo trip, slipped into a folder of unrelated photos. It showed the hospital's rubble, empty except for a faint, blurry woman, her half-face staring, her one eye glowing in the dark. The print was streaked with red, as if blood had seeped through the paper. Layla burned it, her hands trembling, but the faces lingered, a reminder that some ruins never let go.